So again, all these objects, whether shells or beads or bags of salt or gold or silver or dollar bills, they've all been used as what economists call mediums of exchange. And the phrase medium of exchange refers to any object that a community has chosen to use as a medium for trading, meaning that everyone can use that object to trade for every product and every service the community has. Now let's go back once again to the ancient Egyptian architect and the olive grower and the papyrus processor. Now if they all used a medium of exchange of, say, silver, all three of them could easily trade with each other. The architect could use silver to directly trade for the writing paper, and the papyrus processor would be happy to accept the silver, because then he could use it to trade for olives. And then the olive grower would be happy to accept the silver because he could use it to trade for the services from the architect. So unlike specific goods and services, an agreed upon medium of exchange will almost always be of value to everyone in a community, because that medium of exchange can then be used to trade for every product and service in that whole community. Now, so to continue with the themes from my chapter 1 of why do we have to work, the emergence of money is yet another repercussion of agriculture. That is, agriculture permitted just a small part of the population to feed everyone else. And this in turn freed up people to specialize in areas other than food production. And this in turn led to lots of specialized products and services. And that in turn led to lots of bartering complications. And that led to the solution of communities trying to find some sort of object, serve as a medium of exchange, or in other words, to use some sort of money. Now, as complicated as bartering would become during the first wave, it would become impossibly complicated during the second and third waves. Because during the first wave, even though trying to solve that double coincidence of wants problems by finding by a third or fourth party, that would be a headache, at least it was a possible solution. But when you get to the second and third waves, there often wasn't even the possibility of that kind of solution, because the workforce became so specialized and so divided that most people stopped having complete ownership over the product they were making. Now, back in the Why Do We Have to Work series, I contrasted the first century craftsmen who made pins, making one pin at a time, with the 19th century factory worker who made a small assembly line contribution to making pins, sharpening a head, sharpening one head, sharpening another head. Now, even though barter could be clumsy and have its limitations for the first century pin maker, at least it was possible for him to take his pins and go and trade them for, grain from the farmer or what have you. But now, when it comes to 10 guys working on a factory assembly line, none of them really own the final product. So barter becomes almost impossible during the second wave. Now, so getting paid with some sort of medium of exchange and then using that medium of exchange to trade for food, clothes, and shelter becomes the only way, at least for most people, to have access to their survival basics. I mean, there are always exceptions for those who ran their own small businesses and wanted to barter with other people who ran their small businesses. But that doesn't really apply to most of us. Most of us today are a small part of some larger business. Now, another function for a community's medium of exchange is something that we economists call a measure of value. Now, suppose two or more traders in a bartering community. Suppose they just happen to hit upon that elusive double coincidence of wants. Now, let's say there's a carpenter who builds these excellent tables, and he's injured his knee recently, so he wants some knee surgery. It's also getting cold, so he wants a winter coat. And he's also concerned about his teeth now, so he's decided he's going to floss after every meal. So he wants a supply of dental floss. Now, suppose during the course of an unusual day, let's say he comes into contact with a surgeon and a tailor and a floss maker, and they all need tables. So there's no double coincidence of wants problem here. He wants something that each of them have, and he happens to make something that each of them wants. But now the problem our carpenter has now is, well, what's the price of one table? Now, if you're using a medium of exchange, you can say something like, well, it's $100 or 200 beads or 5 sacks of salt. But if your economy is run on barter, you have to have different prices for everybody that you're trading with. So for the tailor, maybe you could do an even trade, one table for one winter coat. But for the floss maker, you wouldn't trade one table for one roll of dental floss. I mean, the carpenter might want 50 rolls of floss for that one table. And now when you get to the surgeon, well, maybe the surgeon is the one. He wouldn't consider knee surgery for one table as an equal trade. The table may count as only 1/10 of the trade for that operation. And an even trade might be something more in line with a whole dining set. But suppose the surgeon doesn't need a whole dining set. All she needs is one table. Now suppose the floss maker is the one who wants the whole dining table. Whole dining set, that is. But given that just one table is worth 50 rolls of floss, what's the carpenter going to charge for a whole dining set? Maybe 500 rolls of floss, but most people don't need that much floss. So even when there's no double coincidence of ones problem, bartering still has some difficult obstacles to be discussed further in Part 3.